Hi, baby girl. I made this for you so that for a couple reasons. One is, do you remember we were really watching your GPA in ninth grade year? And I feel like that kind of motivated you, and we fell off from doing that. And not until like senior year did we start doing it again. And whenever we were closely watching your GPA, ninth grade, and again senior year, those were your best years. Okay, so watching your GPA is, I think, being aware of it, just having that in your head is a really good thing. It helps motivate you. So there's that. Then there's also the fact that you're on a different system now. You're on a system where all your classes don't count the same. So your average is a little different. So I wanted to talk to you about that and give you an idea of how they do it in college. So here we go. You can see here I put all your classes, and beside each one I have said how many hours that class is. So piano is a 1 hour class, applied voice is a 1 hour class, diction, opera, Mercer Singers, UNV, musicianship, all 1 hour classes. Then theory is a 3 hour class and self and others is a 4 hour class. So basically what that means is self and others counts the biggest in your grade. Theory counts the next biggest in your grade, and all of these count the same. So let me talk to you about what you'll see sometimes in college in your GPA, and they'll mention quality points. Quality points is that point average that they use to do a 4.0 scale. So in other words, that's the one quality points. If you get an A, you get a 4. If you get a B, you get a 3. If you get a C, you get a 2. Well, the quality points is that multiplied times the number of hours. So for a 1 hour class for piano, it's a 1 hour class. If you get an A, that gets you 4 quality points. Same thing for all these others. And notice that Mom figured out how to do the formulas. So it's calculating your GPA down there. Okay, so theory is a 3 hour class. So if you get an A in theory, you get 3 times 4, which is 12 quality points. Self and others is a 4 hour class. So if you get an A in self and others, you get 4 times 4, which is 16 quality points. And look at that, you got a GPA of 4.0. That's a perfect GPA. That would be the ideal. But I just wanted to give you an idea of how things work with these two classes, theory and self and others, being so much bigger in the GPA than others. Let's suppose that instead of A's, let's suppose that you made just a B in just theory. So now for quality points, you don't have 4 times 3 hours. Here's the 3. You have 3 because a B is a 3.0. So 3 times 3 is 9. Okay, so if you get a B in just theory, you'll have a 3.78 or a 3.79, which is still a good, that's awesome. If you could keep it to a anything above a 3.5, I think that would be great. 3.78 is great. If you can keep it to a 3.8, 3.7, that's even better. Because keep in mind that everything that you're going to apply for, they're going to want to know your GPA. So when you're applying for scholarships for summer programs, when you're applying for grad school, all these people are going to want to know your GPA. So GPA continues to matter. All right, so let's say you make a B in theory, you get a 3.79. Let's say you make a B in self and others as well. So that's instead of 4 points for each hour, because it's an A, you get 3 points for each hour. So 3 times 4 is 12. So that would give you a 3.5. Okay, so remember that a 3.5 is basically halfway between an A and a B. So it's interesting that even though you're making an A, this is kind of what I was trying to show you. Even though you're making an A in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 classes out of 9, it's the 2 classes that count the most, and together they are 7 hours that you're making your B in. So that's 50-50. That's 50% A's and 50% B's. So that's a 3.5. 3.5 would still be good. Keep in mind that the lower you go, it's harder to bring GPAs back up than it is to keep them high. If you get below a 3.5 your freshman year, first semester, it's certainly not the end of the world because you have plenty of time to bring it back up. But you're helping yourself a lot if you can keep it high from the start, because you will have semesters where they're a little rougher. Honestly, self and others is definitely not going to be the hardest non-music class you take. You're going to have to take a life science. You're going to have to take math. You're going to have to take some classes that you really don't want to take. Self and others is not that bad comparatively. Okay, but let's suppose that you bomb musicianship because you can't get out of bed. So let's say in musicianship you get a C. So then you would have 2 quality points here. So that gives you a 3.36, 3.3 basically. Let's suppose you really bomb it. You get an F because you've missed it too many times to pass the class. That brings you down to 3.2. Okay. Let's suppose you do okay in musicianship. You get a B. But you get a C in one of these 2 others. You get a C in either theory or in self and others. Let's say you get a C in theory. A C is 2 points. 2 times 3 is 6 quality points. That would be your overall GPA. Again, still not horrible. I came up with some different scenarios. Let's suppose for a second that you get, let's suppose you get A in all your little bitty classes and then a B in musicianship and then C's in both of these. That would be C is 2 points times 4 is 8 quality points. Okay, so now you're below a 3.0. And that's kind of a problem because scholarship. So you can see how easily, if you make C's in both theory and self and others, how easily you could get below that. So that would be an issue. If you also, for instance, forgot to turn something in diction and got a B there, now we're at 2.85. Okay, let's suppose you bomb theory and musicianship, which would be horrible just because you've got to take 3 more semesters of both of those. So let's try really hard to understand everything you're doing. Don't just slide by on anything in theory or musicianship, and I can't say that enough. Don't slide by, make sure you understand it, because you can't build on something you don't understand. So you're going to be up a creek later if you don't understand. And have to work a lot harder. But there's C's in both of those and a B in self and others. So that's, let's see, 3 times 4 is 12 quality points. Well, now you're back above a 3.0, which is good. But I'm a little concerned. Oops, I did not mean to zoom out so much. I'm a little concerned because I think for your scholarship, you have to keep a 3 in music classes for the music scholarship. And if you take these numbers, just the music classes, and you add them up, that's 31 here, and divide that, I'm going to use a calculator, sorry, 31 divided by 10 hours, that's a 3.1. You'd be okay. You'd be just barely okay. But, you know, that's something else to consider. No, I'm not doing that. Let me get rid of those. Okay, so some different scenarios. Let's say I make A's in everything except a B in musicianship. Oops, sorry. And C's in both self and others and theory. That would be slightly below a 3.0. How about C's in all 3 of these? 2.85. How about C's in both of those and a B here? And you forget to turn something in diction and you get a B there. Again, you're below. Is that what I meant to do? I think something's wrong here. Let's see. 2 times 4 is 8. 2 times 3 is 6. That's right. Okay, I must have made a mistake on my paper. How about if you get a C in theory but not in self and others? So 3 times 4 is 12. Boom. Good. So you really want at least a B in theory and self and others is one of the ways to look at this, just because theory and self and others are both really big. They count more than anything else. So like if you got a B in self and others and theory, self and others, but in theory and musicianship you got C's, you'd still have over a 3 overall. Again, you don't want to do that in theory and musicianship because you have to build on that, and it's a heck of a lot worse to try and build on a C then build on the level of understanding required to have an A. So you really want to try harder to really be solid in those 2 classes. But I just wanted to give you some ideas. Let's say you miss Mercer Singer's rehearsal. Oh, now we got a 3.0 exactly. I really feel like you could probably do better than that. I hope I'm right in thinking that. I suspect you're doing better than that already. But I also have been kind of letting you do your thing. So we'll see. And I just wanted to give you a good overview. Ideally, what would I want to see? Oh, I don't know. That would be great. Diction seems to be going pretty well. Over a 3.5 is really where you should be putting your goal. I think the 3.5 might be the Zell Miller. So if you could get over a 3.5, you get even more money next year. And more money makes it much easier for me to justify spending some money on a car. But it's also just good. It's also good to be able to put that on your applications. It's also good just to be able to have money more money also means more money that I could give you for summer programs. So anyway, I love you, and I hope this helped clarify how grades work in college and how your particular grades work with your hours and all of that. And I will see you later. Bye.